This project was supported by Award 15 PJDP 22GK00946 MUMU, awarded by the Office of Juvenile Justice and the Office of Justice Programs. The opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in this videocast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the Department of Justice.
My name is Kamala Mernani, and I'm the NMRC Youth Advisory Council member at Mentor. I work under the National Mentoring Resource Center project, and I'm excited to be here today with Seth Ehrlich, Executive Director, and Elizabeth Williams, Vice President of Programs at SOS Outreach, a fellow grantee of the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention, also known as OJJDP. I'm looking forward to learning more about your work with the NMRC, so thank you both for being here with me. Let's dive right in.
Thank you.
First, let's start off with some introductions of yourself as well as the program, and we can kick it off with Seth.
Kamal, thank you, and it's great to be here today. So yes, I'm Seth Ehrlich, Executive Director of SOS Outreach, and I am born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, now living in Colorado, and found my way out west after having a couple of job opportunities in the city of Pittsburgh, and really was looking for a personal challenge. And so packed up everything and traveled 1,500 miles to pursue the mountains, and those mountains became a way of life for me. And I found SOS after 2 years of being in the state of Colorado and starting as a volunteer, and it was a really powerful way to bring my passion for skiing and being in the outdoors into what was also my professional training of nonprofit management, nonprofit leadership. And so I have been really honored to grow with this organization over the past 18 years and to really bring what my passions are of community engagement and relationship development, but also the power of the outdoors to create really strong connections between adults and kids forward. And so I'm in a great spot. I love it.
Kamal, thank you so much. I'm Elizabeth Williams. I'm the Vice President of Programs at SOS Outreach. I've been with SOS for just over 4 years now. And opposite of Seth, I grew up in Colorado. So mountains have always been home for me. And we're going to get into what our program does and how we connect kids with mentors in the outdoors. But similar to Seth, it's just so important to me to create meaningful classrooms for our young people to connect with adults. And SOS has really been a wonderful place for me to do that. I found my way to SOS. I was actually a ski instructor at Keystone in the Mountains and started working with the program almost 10 years ago, did some other things, and then started again here about 4 years ago. And so I'm really excited to be here today and talk about our work because I really, truly believe in what we're doing and really appreciate you giving us the opportunity.
Oh, thank you both for being here. And Seth, if you want to also give us a little overview of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. So SOS Outreach, as you've heard as a part of both of our introductions, we are centered in leveraging the outdoors as a classroom. And it truly is the most powerful way that I've seen to build strong relationships between adults and kids because it's a shared activity. And so both the adults and the kids are doing something that they love together. They have the same experience riding down the hill. They have the same experience on a chairlift, and they're able to connect on that, which then accelerates the mentoring relationship. And then we have integrated and really developed, and we'll talk about this through this conversation today, and particularly through our work with OJJDP and with Mentor, a rigorous curriculum that sits on top of those outdoor experiences. So we're working with kids from 4th grade through high school graduation in a progressive model that's integrating outdoor engagement to build strong relationships between adults and kids in the mentoring relationship, service learning, and then leadership skill development. And again, this is a progressive program that builds on each previous year so that we are focused on developing the full participant for them to bring their talents forward. We believe that all of our kids have incredible talent. Our goal is to connect them to opportunities and to skills for them to bring those talents forward. And we do that through a rigorous program.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And could you guys talk a little bit about the technical assistance that you received from us at Mentor? And we'll start off with Elizabeth.
For sure. So we work very closely with Mentor Colorado, being headquartered here, and have received just incredible technical assistance through them and through you all. We started our technical assistance journey years ago. We've had technical assistance help with initial iterations of our mentor training, but more recently, over the last 5 years, started with a program fidelity project where we really got into looking at the quality metrics of what makes our program. And that really kicked off just an incredible improvement process for us. So starting with that program and the program fidelity project, we were able to identify core components of what our program is. Through those core components, we actually really finally articulated our key program goals. And we'd always had them, they'd been out there, but to really put them into writing allowed us to then do a whole lot of work making sure that our curriculum aligned to what we were trying to achieve. So that initial TA was incredibly important to kick us off on that journey. Then we used it to do an equity audit, just to make sure that our programs are in line with making sure that we're serving the kids that we serve the best the way that we can, and was really eye-opening for us to see some places that we could tweak our programs, that we could make some awesome improvements. And then we moved into another technical assistance project, hand in hand with OJJDP, the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency that you mentioned. We also get funding from them, and used our TA to set us up for success for a training overhaul that we were doing with them. And so worked really closely with one of our technical assistance providers to really see what our mentors' needs were in their training, so that then when we started working with some contractors through OJJDP, we were set up for success to make sure that that project was as successful as it possibly could be. And we actually just got to pilot that training over the last 3 weeks, and it's been widely received very well from our mentors as really being a good improvement. So we're excited about that. And then lastly, I think one of the things I'm most excited about, we've been using TA to launch a mentor podcast. And so just put together our first episode of some just-in-time training. And we'll be launching that in January, but are piloting right now. We have some of our mentors and staff listening to it and giving us feedback. So that's a lot to say. I am like the biggest fan of TA. Everybody should use it because it's such an incredible resource. And I think for our organization has just brought us leaps and bounds. I mean, who we are now versus when we started TA is just incredibly different. And Seth, I know you want to talk a little bit also about NQMS, which is also part of using technical assistance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's it is wild, Elizabeth, as you talk about that journey, and I can reflect on like the whole TA process. It is so powerful when you're focused on what you'd like to get out of it. And the more that we've understood the opportunity, it's created such a significant growth for the organization, because we've really been able to focus on where do we need support and how can we get that support. NQMS was on the other end of that. I mean, it was a big project for the organization to take on the National Quality Mentoring Survey and evaluate our programs at that level. And I mean, it was the deepest dive beyond any analysis of the organization that I've worked through. And it really was a thorough experience into the organization. What was so powerful about that was, one, it was a real stake in the ground for us to focus on what we had already been doing for 25 years in the organization and what we had built naturally by responding to our participants and their interest. And so we kept building year 2 and year 3 and year 4 and service based on them voting with their registration and their interest. And NQMS gave us the chance to take a step back and really look from start to finish as to how we are implementing our program in the most effective way possible, and where are there opportunities for us to learn from other organizations and learn from the best practices that Mentor's providing to strengthen that work. And it really, what Elizabeth talks about of subsequent TA experiences, you're hearing that. So the equity audit, the fidelity work all came out of what we did from NQMS, which further strengthened the organization and strengthened our program. So that was certainly, it was a big one for us to go through. And it was such a significant turning point for the organization, because it really reinforced that we are a mentor organization first. And we have this powerful way that we're building these mentoring relationships and facilitating them between adults and kids to really foster long-term success.
The other thing I'd add to the NQMS process that's just been incredibly helpful to the organization is both having, a partner badge is an incredible thing for us to be able to share, but it's really helped us with funding and our ability to articulate our programs and to have, somebody stand behind and say that we are really following those elements of effective practice. So I think that's been an important piece too of us walking through that process. Is not only has it improved our program quality, but it's also helped us continue to get funding for those programs.
Yeah, it's worth it. Anyone out there, do it. It's worth it.
Well, I just want to say how inspiring it is to hear you guys take advantage of these tools that we have and really be willing to learn and change and be able to have that improve your program as a whole. So thank you both for sharing that. And with this TA process through the NMRC, did you encounter any challenges through the process or any surprises you want to mention?
Yeah, I've been thinking back on all of these, and I think the biggest challenges that we faced were all internal, right? Like, it was really important for us to walk through those steps because it uncovered places that we could improve our programs. It uncovered places that we could make changes. It made us have really hard conversations as an organization as to where we wanted to be. So it was really good. They were really good challenges and struggles. I think the surprise was just how much support that we got. And then ultimately the quality of our final product. Everything from, talking about the program fidelity project, our final product for that ended up being a program observation tool that we still use today, that my team is out watching our programs, watching our mentors, making sure that we're doing what we say we should be doing. I think this podcast is another great example of like the level of support that I had through it to make it happen, is that we now have this, shiny finished product to share with the world, which is exciting. So I think that's a really amazing surprise that you sign up for TA and you're like, okay, well, maybe somebody's going to kind of tell me what to do. But ultimately, like, all of our TA providers have really walked hand in hand with us, have really guided very clear processes for us to step through, and then ultimately have made sure that we had a really shiny or a really polished final product.
And what were some of the most important learnings for your organization?
Yeah, we started touching on some of this, but really the program quality of our programs has improved, I would say, substantially. We joke a lot at SOS. We've been around for 30 years, and all of these processes have really made us back into the work that we've been doing. So we have the 30-year history of being successful, of having good impact, but really hadn't pulled everything together. And I think a lot of organizations are in that same boat, that you start with a really great idea, you start implementing it with your kids, it works, and so you do more of it. And don't always have the opportunity to step back and be like, hey, let's actually collate all this. Let's put it into a handbook. Let's put it into a manual. Let's organize things so that we can actually use it and replicate it. And so I think that's been really one of the most important things, is we've learned a lot, like a lot of grassroots learning, a lot of like trial and error, but this process has really made us professionalize that and have it in one place that's really then easy to share. So that's, I think, the program side, and I'll pass it to Seth to talk more on the organizational side.
Yeah, organization-wide, it's what Elizabeth you're highlighting. It's that cohesion and really bringing together, because particularly NQMS brought forward best practices in training and communication. And so much of what we had been doing for years, which was we're still doing a lot of that work. We have continued to iterate and refine it. However, having the handbook in place, having the ability for us to now bring hire professionals in the field and provide them the teacher's manual so that then they can do it versus the just-in-time training that had been historic for the organization has really helped us, because now it's so clearly documented as to what we do, why we're doing it, what are our goals, and that is then fostered cohesion across the entire organization, because now our entire team has access to this information really clearly of this is why we're doing what we're doing. And it's not just the program team who understands all the logistics of it. It's our funding team, our marketing team, our leadership team, our board. This has been really powerful for our board to see the intentionality of the program and why we do all of the inputs that we're providing across our program. And that connects into the funding relationships that have been have had a significant impact, because going through this process with NQMS, it's enabled it's reduced a barrier in the funding space. And so I don't you know, it's not that it's brought in like funding hasn't fallen from the sky or anything like that. However, what has happened is that us aligning with best practices as an organization makes it easier for people to understand. And so you get to the actual conversation that you want to have versus trying to describe our model and what we're doing. You know, being aligned with the NQMS process and having worked with Mentor enables us to walk through that door with what we've already been doing in a really clear way. And as Elizabeth mentioned, that the badging of the organization, again, I mean, it's been very powerful for us because it enables us to get to what we want to be talking about versus having to describe, no, you don't, like, yes, we're doing all this and we may not be a traditional mentoring relationship as you're used to. However, we are aligned in best practices. And so it enables us to show that without needing to describe it.
Just hearing your stories, it's very clear to me that you both have truly embraced the technical assistance that is offered through the NMRC. And so I was wondering, if you were to give advice to another organization who is hoping to go through this same practice, what advice would you give them to make the most out of their experience?
I mean, my first piece of advice is do it.
Yep.
It's an easy process to apply for. Even I would say, I know I know Mentor is awesome at helping support, even if you're like, I don't know what project to apply for. Well, reach out, talk through it. This is an amazing resource that needs to be used. So do it, figure something out, because having experts by your side is just incredibly valuable. You know, with TA, you're working with, you know, amazing experts in the field. I think I've worked really closely with Brad Strong, who's connected with Mentor Colorado, who has just been an invaluable wealth of knowledge. And so having somebody both as an outside perspective, but then, you know, with additional expertise is incredibly valuable. And I think really with that is to be willing to take a hard look at your programs, back to that challenge. I think we really want to believe that we're doing the very best that we can, and we are, but there's always places for us to improve. And so having that outside perspective come in and then being willing to listen and having the humility to take the advice and then make those changes, even though sometimes it's challenging to do so, ultimately will serve our kids better. Right. And that's what we're all in it for, is to make sure that we're having the best impact on our youth and mentors. And so really leaning into the process and making sure that you're coming in with an open mind to be willing to grow and change as an organization. And then I think also just really knowing that the TA providers are there to support you, that mentors there to support you, wants your program to be successful. And so even through maybe those challenging conversations, even through the hard work, that you have this amazing support system by your side to make sure that it happens.
That was some great advice, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. And in what other ways has the NMRC been able to offer you resources, or have you utilized those resources?
Yeah, a couple things. One thing I wanted to make sure to mention is if folks haven't checked out the Mentor website, I still am digging out resources. There's so much there. So I know that's not an MRC, but just one resource space that I've been really diving into lately is there's so much as far as articles and videos and you name it, it's there as far as resources go. But other NMRC resources we've used, so through our OJJDP grant, we've had the fortune of working with Dr. Sam McQuillan and Carla Herrera to really overhaul our mentor training. And so starting with, again, we started with a TA to take a look at what we needed, and then we're able to take that to these research board members to have them really help us walk through an improved mentor training that we're really excited about this year. And then following up with that on the podcast, we were able to work with Dr. Nancy Deutsch, who's also on the research board, to come in and be part of our podcast and be an expert as we were problem solving a common mentor issue. And so really have been able to dive into research board experts. And then again, just so many amazing resources that are offered across the NMRC. So it's been really incredible. And I think there's more there than I think people realize. So anybody listening, dive in.
Definitely. There are so many documents, so many websites that are linked on that website. So also highly recommend looking into that. And obviously your program has a very unique model. So how do you feel that some of the practices that you employ could be applied to other mentoring programs, even those that have a different model?
Well, and that's what is the most powerful thing about all that we've done with NMRC and all of this work that we've been talking about in this conversation, because yes, we have a unique model, and so many mentor programs are unique. They're responsive to the communities that they're in and the unique needs of the kids in those communities. And what NMRC and what all of this work with the TAs and NQMS has highlighted is that there's consistent, though, work that can be done. I mean, training, fidelity, goal setting. I mean, all of that work, background check processes is consistent no matter what the model is. And so all that we have been talking about today is not specific to SOS outreach and our programs and the way that we are engaging the kids in our programs. What is specific to all mentoring programs that we've been talking about is how do you do the best that you can, and how do you bring forward the most significant impact? And that's where the resources really come in to play, because it's all about how are you doing the best that you have with the resources that you have available. And that's what I've just loved about the partnership that we've had. As Elizabeth has highlighted, our relationship with TAs, I mean, don't hesitate to ask the question, don't hesitate to follow up with them, be specific in your project and in the work. But again, none of the work that we have done has been specific to our model. It really has been specific to how do we strengthen the mentor program that we are providing. And it's been really powerful in the alignment that I just want to come forward. I mean, so much of organizational alignment has developed out of this work because it's fostered such clarity for who we are as an organization, why we're doing what we're doing, and the impact opportunity with the kids involved. And that's something that would be consistent across all organizations.
Well, I want to conclude today by expressing my gratitude for both of you for joining me and sharing your experiences and phenomenal insights. It was such a pleasure to hear about your passion for the work and the impact that you're making in the field of mentoring. And for those that are watching and you want to learn more about how to access these resources, you can find them all linked in the description below. And if you'd like to learn more about the work of SOS Outreach, please visit their website, which will also be linked. Once again, thank you both for chatting with me, and thanks to everyone who also watched. Have a great day.